There's the mic unmuted. I apologize, everybody. Doing about 13 things at one time. Now I know you can hear me. You can hear me on TikTok, and I was explaining how I was trying to get on to Instagram as well. My services will let me do that. Probably a good thing because I called the radio station by the old slogan, and I know they'll appreciate me saying B999 instead of the old slogan. But anyway, we've got a plethora of severe thunderstorm warnings that we're looking at and special weather statements that are out right now. By the way, this is all sponsored by First Choice Tree Services. I need to give them a shout out because you're going to need them in activity like this. These are typical summer-like patterns that we get with a lot of energy, a lot of lightning. Lightning itself can create a lot of damage out there. It's hotter than the surface of the sun. Trees will literally explode. And if you've got a weaker structure, near a weaker tree, that could spell trouble as well. But there's also been a fair amount of straight line wind damage today. And First Choice, and I'm not just advertising for them because they sponsor, but I'm just letting you know it's always a good idea to have a good tree service in mind because you never know when you're going to need it. So down through Danbury here in King, several reports of a tree down there along in Stokes County, 2 miles north of Pinnacle. We've also got thunderstorm winds blew down 3 trees on Dan George Road in Danbury. This was a bit earlier, around noon. This storm kind of escalated. Then we've got lightning striking a log shed and set it on fire. That's also in Stokes County. We had some rotation in this very area too. If you were to go back and look at that, you'll see that on the radar picture. Right now, to give you kind of a broader standpoint of what's going on, you can see that we've got a front draped across the area, and that front is what's providing the spin, the energy for these storms to start rotating. And we'll look at some of the rotation in a second. Regardless of rotation, we still do have enough straight line wind because we've got so much moisture and so much lift going on that what comes up in the air has to come down. And that's been the concern all day today. When I got up this morning and looked at the models, it was looking more like a flash flooding event for this week. And it does look like that. We've got flood advisories out now for Franklin County. It's a little hard to see here, but for all of Boone's Mill, Rocky Mount, areas where the storms have already tracked, through Stewart, Danbury, into Henry County as well. You've got a flood advisory out, let's see, until 4 o'clock, and that gets you into the evening commute for the next couple of hours. Beyond that, we're going to have more flooding probably later on this week, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But these storms have kind of congealed into more or less a line. But what I'm really concerned about, anytime you have a front, and you can see it right there barely popping up, and you can see where the Weather Service has posted the latest severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Campbell County, from Volans, where the radar used to be, to Alta Vista here. And I'm going to read you the text of that one as well. It's popping up somewhere here. There we go. Until 3:15, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Campbell County and for Pittsylvania County, Halifax County until 3:15. That storm is located along Long Island, 8 miles east of Hurt, moving north at 20. So that we're really not getting a lot of forward movement with this, but we are seeing just enough movement to get us a little bit of wind shear. What I'm going to do is update the software that I have, and we're going to figure out for ourselves what the motion of the storm, what that's giving us here. So we'll put storm motion from marker, and then I'm going to show you the base velocity. So you have to remember the Floyd County radar is right here where the mouse is. If you're listening on the radio, what I'm looking for are reds and greens. And if you notice this big clump of lightning, there is a big, huge jump in lightning that we had earlier today too. This is around the Gretna, Callens area, just north of Roseville, just west of Danville. And you've also got an embedded little notch here or two of what we call swirlies. They're embedded areas of rotation, but they're not necessarily all that strong. If I put on the storm relative velocity, that takes out the storm motion, but it also shows you the reds and the greens close together. This is broad rotation. But it kind of bows out right here. You can see that right there through Pittsylvania County near Blair's. That's a bow echo. What I'm really concerned about would be locations that exist on this front, because around Alta Vista, the Gretna, down through southwest Franklin County even, you've got green going toward the radar and a little bit of red going away from the radar. You've also got some higher wind here just to the southwest of Alta Vista, and that's if you're watching live. So it is 2:30 in the evening, and that's where we now have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for this area as well. You can see how that kind of blew up there. I'm going to zoom into that area southwest of Hurt. You can see how that wind just intensified, and what I'm getting off the radar is about 20 to 40 mile per hour winds. Again, keep in mind at this point the beam is about 3,500 feet off the ground. So if there is a tornado or funnel cloud, we're not going to see them, but we are going to see a lot of low-hanging clouds. One thing to watch here in the Pittsylvania County, again between Callens and Roseville and Blair's, would be any kinks in this line. You can see broad rotation, red going away, green going toward, and from time to time you'll see it close in, and then it goes away. It kind of cycles. So it's not a classic severe rotational setup in that there's a ton of shear. Normally, if you were talking about pure tornadoes, you'd be talking about winds and forward movement of these storms at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. These storms are moving to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour instead. And so that's taken out some of the umph in terms of really concentrating some of this spin. That's the good news. The bad news is we still have damage reports that are coming in from either straight line winds or microbursts that are occurring in the area. So let me go back here. We'll zoom it back out. And I'm just looking at velocity there. I also want to look at correlation coefficient to see if I see any debris. I see hints of hail showing up there in the Blair's community. Again, right near Callens. Looks like we've got a lot of lightning there just north of Axton. Our echo tops, how high are the clouds? How high does the radar see that? We're up at about 41,000 feet. That's pretty high. It's also right near all that lightning that I'm picking up right there. So I'd say anywhere from Union Hall down through the North Carolina state line to Danville, to Blair's, Chatham, and Gretna, Mount Airy, you need to be taking shelter because this thunderstorm warning continues for the next hour or so, and there will be more. Again, if you're into the Alta Vista, Evington area, getting up toward Lynchburg, you are now under a severe thunderstorm warning for that area, Campbell County, until 3:15. And again, there's going to be more of this as we go into the evening hours, it looks like, because we've got sufficient instability. Now, what's instability? Well, we need to get the air rising and we need to get it turning. And right now, we really do have it rising. This is, again, a look at the radar itself. Very heavy rain, more moderate rain toward Martinsville near the radio station here. But if you're listening on B99, just out on the eastern edge of the listening area, or on the app from Alta Vista down through 29 and Danville, hunker down because this is a very dangerous looking storm and it's kind of bowing out as I mentioned here. We've got new cells developing and now a special weather statement also in effect for Bent Creek. That's moving north at 25 miles per hour, winds in excess of 40 miles per hour. That's for Dillwyn and parts of just east of Nelson County, Buckingham County, and that as well. I'd also watch out just north of Charlotte Courthouse toward Pamplin and into Appomattox because that's where our front is. Not to be outdone, we've got some embedded cells here into Botetourt County into Lexington. And so if you're listening on the radio, they may cut out at any time. But what I want to let you know is that we do have a repeated pattern of this for the next several days. So I am looking at making sure everything is good on my end there. I'm looking at several days of this, and some of this is going to end up being a problem for flooding by the time this is all said and done. And I'm talking well into the weekend. This is the enhanced satellite picture that shows the lower clouds there in the lighter blue. and it's showing the higher cloud tops there and the lightning strikes through Franklin County. You see those plus and minus arrows. Those are positive and negative strikes, or basically I believe that's just lightning in and of itself. But what I can do is I can pop up the overall lightning as seen from space, and you can see the flash extensity really concentrated now through Henry County, the Figgsboro area, Snow Creek. A lot of lightning there showing up right up 29 as well, near 460. And so that is not surprising. I'm going to remove that again because you can get a three-dimensional look at the storms as the evening progresses. As the sun sets, that angle will provide more of a cauliflower kind of look to that radar imagery. But we've got available energy at around 1,000 joules per kilogram up to about 2,000 joules per kilogram. Well, what's that mean, Jamey? That means that that's how much energy is available for these storms to work off of, just in terms of rising air and sinking air. What comes up must come down. All right, so this is a look at, let me get you up here. Let me make this a little bit bigger if I can. This is the latest HER, and I think I can do this in 15-minute increments. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to zoom in to the Greensboro area. There we go. This is from Weatherbell. And so as we advance this, you see it's picking up well on these heavier cells here. We're at about 2 o'clock right there, so that's where it thinks the heavier rainfall is. But notice if you look upstream in the Greensboro and even all the way down to Charlotte, there is more rain in the forecast, more heavier storms. And Franklin County, through about 3, 4 o'clock, we'll continue to see the heavier rainfall, and it's going to move on toward Lynchburg. But later on tonight, toward 5, 6 o'clock, we're going to see numerous rounds, according to the HER, and according to newer models too, that suggest we've just got so much moisture in place, you don't need a lot of that CAPE. I mentioned we had CAPE of around 500 to 1,000. You can get severe weather with that, but when you combine moisture with it and you get a lot of moisture in the air, the amount of CAPE you need is offset by that moisture. In other words, it only takes a little bit of lift with a lot of moisture in place to produce what we usually would expect with CAPEs 3 times as much. And so we have more rounds of rain by midnight tonight through Franklin County and Martinsville and Henry County, if this model is to be believed, all through the NRV as well. Most of the models do print out continuous areas, and this is getting into early tomorrow morning, early Tuesday morning, of rainfall occurring. There you see some of the lighter rainfall and fog occurring there, but if I go to the actual amount of rain, your precip total, you will be impressed here. It's a little more high res, but we've got most of the area in about 1 inch to about 1.5 to as much as isolated amounts 4 to 5 inches in those little dots right there. And I've come to realize that these sometimes verify. So you see how sporadic this is. If you're listening on the radio, you can tune in on the Facebook page of the radio or the TV station and see what I'm talking about here. But the model does pick up on this heavier rainfall. This is just through 7 a.m. tomorrow. We could see about 4 or 5 inches of rain. That's not going to be for everybody, but it is going to be for a good part of the area, especially for Southside going into North Carolina. And this area always through Wilkes County and through Stokes and Surrey County down through Caswell County, Yadkin County is susceptible to flooding. You can also see Floyd County there highlighted and Smith Mountain Lake as well. Other areas only have about 1/2 of an inch in the forecast, but it depends. It all depends on your model of choice. If I go to the national blend of models, this is going to be smoothed over, but this takes into account every single model available. I think it's about 151 models. And not only that, it doesn't just blend it, it weighs the most accurate performing models recently higher than it does the lowest performing models. So there's a little science to this, and it indicates that we'll see a lot of rainfall after midnight tonight going into the rest of the week. So if I advance this here, you can see how the numbers there add up on your screen. And it's a little bit hard to see with the bug there, but through 12Z Wednesday, that's through 8 a.m. Wednesday, we've got widespread amounts here of 1.5 inches from Roanoke, Lynchburg, and south to 2.5 to 3 inches for the rest of the area from Martinsville and Collinsville and Bassett. And that still may not do a lot of flooding in terms of rainfall rates. But when you get those higher amounts in the storms, it's going to be a real big problem later into Thursday and Friday because, look, the pattern continues. So it may warm up and the storms may become more sporadic here. But if you look at the very long range here, a week from today, the blend, which is usually something more conservative, has us at around 10, that's right, 10 inches of rain, 5 to 10 inches of rain throughout the next several days. That includes some of what we're getting now, but you can see in the motion here, the rain's just going to continue. So it won't be all day, and it won't last all day and night, but we are going to have numerous waves of this. I tried to get that out, get the word out on the radio stations this morning, and I'm going to be having more on my paid sites as well. But you can see the blend's not going to show as intense on the rainfall forecast because it is a blend, so it tends to average out some. As long as you're seeing green, I think tomorrow's rain may be a little more on the lighter side, but then we're going to pick it back up again for Wednesday. If we look at the NAM, the newest NAM that's coming in, I wanted to look at that. That's the 12Z. So let's start it out with right now. This is showing the cell in Franklin County moving through. Timing's a little bit different with each one, but through the Roanoke Valley and throughout the Vista, these storms that are out there right now have hogged a lot of this moisture. But again, by later on tonight, a second area of moisture, light to moderate rain at least, will continue into the after midnight hours into early Tuesday morning. Tuesday's just more sporadic, and I do agree with that. I think we're kind of overturning the atmosphere now, but if you had to pick one, the moisture is the one to be concerned about. And then into Wednesday, more rainfall happening there as well. So that's a concern. I think the precip totals are a little bit lower because of that, although as I'm saying that, I look at the precip totals here on the screen, and I'll zoom you in way big here. If you look at the upslope areas from southwest Roanoke County and the Franklin County and then the Patrick County and Hendry County, also look down towards Greensboro for you Star News viewers. This is through the day on Wednesday. This model is the, again, not as aggressive with rainfall except in these spots. And right where that moisture comes out of the south and hits the mountains, it can't go anywhere. It hits Lover's Leap, it has to rise. And it's a lot of moisture. We're looking at 5 to 7 inches of rain possible there near, you can see the Peaks of Otter showing up on this model there. Sharp Top Mountain, Lynchburg at 4.16. And no model's going to be perfect. Notice we've got a little hole here east of Danville of about 1.5 inches. That's still a lot of rain. But each model's picking up on each individual area of storminess that'll develop over the next 3 to 4 days. And you're going to have to get used to this rainfall. We are dry at the moment if you look at the past 60 days, but we are going to make up for that in a real quick hurry over the next 24 hours. And in fact, from 220 and 73 down through Greensboro and Asheboro, this model's also showing up to 10 inches there and maybe close to a foot of rain in the Floyd County near Copper Hill, near Cave Spring as well. That's some serious rainfall. And not to be outdone for our North Carolina mountainous folks here near Boone, 7.78 to 8 inches of rain. That's a serious situation there. Just kind of looking over different models, and you can see a very similar setup. That's not good if you are not wanting flooding, because these are just different models that have different equations, very similar, right along the spine of Floyd and Franklin County and the Patrick County. The rain's tapering off for right now, but it's going to redevelop tonight and tomorrow, and it will continue to redevelop for the next several days, at least through this coming Wednesday and Thursday, if not beyond that, in the form of some heavier storms. And this only goes out through Wednesday morning. This ARW here showing 2 to 7 inches locally higher there. The FE3, which is a lower res model, again, much the same, 2.93 from Roanoke. These amounts here close to 6 to 8 inches in parts of Franklin County. So it's going to be a matter of exactly where do our storms pop up, and what do we see from them in terms of rainfall rates, and how quick the ground can take or can't take that rainfall. Let's get back to the current radar picture here. I don't want to get too involved in the future. I want to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the current radar, and this alarm will sound in my weather office here if we get a new warning in effect. Let's get this sized back down. It's live TV, it's live TikTok, so if you'll just bear with me here. We've got, again, this most severe weather out toward Danville, and I've got street level mapping here so I can be a little more specific here. Red Eye to Gretna to Ridgeway. That's not the Ridgeway in Henry County. That's the Ridgeway, apparently, that's north of 40 there on Route 609 and 608 near Pittsville and Pickerel and Farmers there, and near the Smith Mountain Lake Dam in northern parts of Pittsylvania County. And again, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning for up to 60-mile-per-hour winds for the next hour. 3/4-inch hail is also possible with some of this. But look down toward Danville. You're getting slammed right now. You made it up to about 80 degrees today, and you can see how the rain's definitely intensified in your area as well. Business 29, Surrey Hills, West Fork seeing a lot of rainfall, and we've got a severe thunderstorm warning out for Danville, but that also continues down through Yanceyville and Caswell County as well. We've got flash flood warnings now for our Star News viewers going through Greensboro. This is a flash flood warning that's in effect. See if I can get it to pop up now. Get my arrow to pop up here. You see, I'll have to pull it up on another map, I think. But this is a flash flood warning. There we go. So we'll read it together for Guilford County until 5:45. If you have any plans anywhere, already between 1 and 2 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall of an inch are possible in the warned area. Flash flooding already occurring because of the pavement, more than likely, in and around Guilford County. And near, looks like Guilford College there, White Oak Heights, Brookhaven Estates, as you make your way down 68 and 73 on the bypass there. As you make your way back towards Stoneville, again, we're watching the redevelopment of rainfall here around Wentworth. You had the storms move through. Now you're getting more activity. I'm not sure if they're storms or just heavier rainfall, but we're seeing newer cells develop down across North Carolina. And the fact of the matter is, this moisture is going to be coming not only out of the south, but out of the south-southeast with time. As I say that, one of the things about watching my streams is I have taken some radar courses, and I've kind of studied up on this every year. But if you look at this polygon here, this is a special weather statement. And it's just south of New London there near 460. 460 is right here. You go down toward Otter Hill in Bedford County, just east of Chestnut Fork near 24 and 628. Around Leesville Lake. This area is under a special weather statement, and if you look at the track of the polygon, it looks like it's just to the west of north. So it's north-northwest is which way the Evington storm's moving, and it gets heavier again just to the north of Leesville Lake on 628 and 626 near 24 there. I'll read you that special weather statement. That's in effect for another 12 minutes, moving north at 25 miles per hour. But if you were to look at the actual movement, it would be a little bit west and north on this exact map. And you can now see a new special weather statement out for Appomattox County and Buckingham County there. Dillwyn there showing maybe in Buckingham County some hail as the radar is on off into the mid-levels of the atmosphere there. So there's your front. We'll rewind it here a little bit. We've got a little bit of a break. The main low is still out to the west, but we are nowhere said and done with this. We've had, again, a lot of tree damage down, whether it's a tornadic activity or whether it's straight line wind damage. That's hard to get folks to really hone in on that because straight line winds can occur and can topple cars and damage like they can tornadoes. And people think, well, it had to have been a tornado. And then on the other end, I've seen cases where, like in Eden, you were hit recently, semi-recently, a few weeks ago with a weather service called a severe thunderstorm warning. I believe you had a downburst and a tornado in Eden. I haven't been down to look at that myself, but I would almost tell you that's almost my opinion anyway. And we don't agree all the time. I don't agree all the time with the National Weather Service, but they do a fine job on getting all this information out. So you're looking at a 4-panel here, and again, you can see, let me go over here. You see at the top left, that's the radar picture. Again, shows the rain from Roanoke, just general rain. You can see all these damage icons from Greensboro to Mount Airy. You can see the severe thunderstorm warning now south of Lynchburg in the special weather statement I was telling you about. A little surprised that we don't have a warning out for Pamplin yet. But we can look at that ourselves in just a second, and down through Danville as well. And the rain's continuing to move up to the north. Do we have any rotation here? Let's check on that. And I'm going to move into this Evington storm really quickly here. We've also got a brand new report coming in here. That was at 1:34, but that's the latest I have. Thunderstorm winds 200 block of Paisley Road, close to the intersection of Smothers Road in Rockingham County, North Carolina, as of 1:34. So about the time we were trying to get on the air here. This is showing you several things, but what I want to kind of indicate for you, and this is a brand new update too that's coming in. We'll just go to one panel here. I'm going to teach you something. All right, so this is our revised severe thunderstorm warning that's now lit up from Rustburg to Gladys to Alta Vista. I think they've trimmed it back somewhat, and I'm not sure why they haven't called Appomattox County yet in the severe thunderstorm warning. But let's look at the size of the raindrops. This is something called precip sorting. So I'm going to take a slice out of the atmosphere, okay? And we're going to look at the size of these drops. Now, rain doesn't fall in a perfectly round circle. It falls as flat pancakes. And what that does is it gives us readings when we look at differential reflectivity. Well, what in the world's that? By the way, that's our rotation earlier that I was watching near Sandy Ridge and Danbury, and that's where we had a lot of the damage. Doesn't guarantee a tornado, but that storm was spinning. So we're near Rustburg right now. And let me get this moved over here. Please share this out because this will be continuing for a good part of the area. This is in Bedford. Let's start 2D so you don't get too confused. There's Bedford, Lynchburg, and the Rustburg and Appomattox, okay? Now, if I tilt this, we're looking at the radar in 3 dimensions here. So we're looking to the north past Rustburg, but we're also going to look at how strong the updraft is. And our freezing level should be turning these big fat raindrops into ice crystals. In other words, we should be seeing these grays and negative values that you're seeing up about 30,000 feet right where my mouse is. That's at about 20 to 30,000 feet. That's a good indicator of hail aloft. That can also mean tornadic debris, but not in this case. But once you get to about 10,000 feet or so in general, and looking at today's data, it's around 10 to 11,000 feet as far as our freezing level. When you start to see these higher values of red and orange showing up, what the radar is saying to us is, hey, I've got rain that's 10,000 feet above the freezing level and it hasn't frozen. You know why? Because the updraft is so strong, it's super cooled water. It hasn't had time to freeze. So when you look at this product, it's a good indicator of how strong the updraft in a thunderstorm is, and you can actually look at this and almost predict if there's going to be a severe thunderstorm warning issued based on just the intensity of the updraft. You see here 20,000 feet. That's the one I'm watching there near Appomattox. and I can swing it out here. I'm getting, yeah, just lots of fat raindrops here that are well above the freezing level. So if you go back and look at the actual reflectivity, this just looks at how much stuff is in the air, not what shape it is, but how reflective is it. Very heavy rainfall, lofted up to about 20,000 feet as well. We can also look at base velocity. You can see a lot of higher winds here aloft, but they do kind of stagnate a little bit toward the surface. So we've got some jet stream energy in there as well. But what's really got my attention, we've probably got some melted hail here. And we're also looking at KDP spikes. This is looking at Rustburg to Appomattox. This is a strong storm that should probably have a warning with it and may have one at any time. What it's looking at when you look at these higher values that aren't cranberry colored, and this is not to be confused with the correlation coefficient, but between 10 and 12,000 to 20,000 feet, when you see these enhanced colors of blue and green showing up, that's either two things. That's just a lot of water in the air that's increased over the past couple of radar scans, and that's indicative of a strong updraft, or the size of the droplets has increased, the concentration or the size, or we've got hail that's falling out of this area, and that's actually probably what's happening with some of this reflectivity. You see these gray values? That's probably dry hail up at about 15,000 feet showing up north of Rustburg. As the hail starts to melt, it gets all these weird jagged edges on it, and it bends the radar beam a little bit more. So we're using the radar beam, how far is it being bent, and at what angle, to show you where the heaviest of the rainfall is, where the heavier downpours are, and where you can see the ponding of water on the roadways. And again, it correlates with this shape of the raindrops too. I can also look aloft here, and if you see a lot of grays, a lot of negative values, those are not the flat pancakes, those are the tall needles of ice crystals. When you start to see them group, that can be an indication of lightning that's about to form. In fact, you can use that during snowstorms to look at that. So I'm using dual pole radar, and you will only probably see this either at the Weather Service, sometimes on the Weather Channel. Not to put my TV folks down, they just have a lot of work to do, and they don't have a lot of time to look at these other parameters, but I always make a point of showing that. So yeah, really hellacious storm there from Appomattox into Campbell County. And again, these were the notches of rotation a few hours ago. I posted this on my Facebook. Danbury, Sandy Ridge, Pine Hall. That's an area that typically does get hit with some spin and intensifying thunderstorm activity. So we'll keep an eye out on this radar vantage point. And you can almost see a bit of a backward C there around Chatham and Spring Garden. To show that better, I have other folks here. Let's look at spin. Top left. Or top right. Also want to check on the National Weather Service, let's see, warning feed. And this is actually using my Twitter page, which is actually pretty funny because it's got my feed up there right now. Let's see, we'll refresh and see if we have anything from our neighbors. They're nice enough to let me post this and repost it. I've got 4 sources that automatically post on my behalf. So if you go to Twitter, Jamey Singleton on Twitter, you will, it's a verified account, and you will get at least 3 to 4 sources instantly of all alerts that do come out. So that's the tree damage I was just telling you about in the 3200 block of Vance Street extension. And again, we can keep refreshing this as we continue to look at these storms coming through. I thought I had a refresh here. There we go. So I don't have anything new at the moment. Now we've got a strong thunderstorm 44 seconds ago. I like using this Twitter thing that's now in effect. This is a special weather statement that's in effect for um, Lynchburg. So there you see it on the Twitter feed. I think I can make it a little bit bigger just so you can see what you will get with Twitter. So you don't necessarily need my fancy maps. You can follow along with me on Twitter. 44 seconds ago, northwestern Campbell County, central Bedford, south central Amherst County, city of Lynchburg through 3:15. Gusty winds, Good, Boonesboro, Madison Heights, and Forest in that black polygon there. That's where we're looking at 40 mile per hour winds. And this is from actually a friend of a friend. My friend Tim Armstrong's lead forecaster at the National Weather Service in Wilmington and is visiting his home area of Hickory. We were supposed to have lunch today, but I had to cancel on the poor guy, and I called him up, and about that time is when all heck was breaking loose. I do see a bow echo here around Chatham and Spring Garden. Backward C on reflectivity. Let's see what I've got in terms of actual velocity data. And I'm going to go to the right 4K monitor. And I'm going to pop up high resolution velocity because we do have damaging straight line winds possible in here. Now all that red just stands out, right? Because you got the radar here and you've got all this wind blowing away, causing that bow echo. So from Chatham on 57 down 29 to 360, Ingram, Vernon Hill, you're in the line for at least some gusty winds. I'd say maybe 50 miles per hour or so. If we look at the actual radar data, you got to keep in mind this is not at the ground. The best we can get is about 3,700, 3,800 feet. A lot of the damaging winds, whether it's a tornado or straight line winds, will occur in the lowest 1,000 to 2,000 feet, sometimes the lowest 500 feet. But let's look at this here. 22, 24, 26 miles per hour. So gusty winds for sure. Non-severe, but I like what the Weather Service is doing because they're saying with that in combination with this bow that's showing up here, that's an indicator that we could be working in tandem here in creating more wind than the radar is even seeing. So that's a big concern as well. And you can see this front continues to update from the Weather Prediction Center. The front itself isn't going to move much. It's stuck in southern Franklin County. And again, we've got that new special weather statement for Lynchburg. Again, you can see if we zoom right into Lynchburg, Forest Hill, the rain's about to start. Peakland hasn't got the rain yet. Boonesboro, maybe some sprinkles. But as you get across Midtown here, near my old stomping grounds of WSET, hey there, Liberty University. Hey there, George Flickinger and all my friends over at SET. I can't forget Will Stafford as well. They're on the expressway. It's raining pretty hard there, and we do have a special weather statement for 40 mile per hour winds there. Still don't have anything for this Appomattox cell, but there's probably some melted hail occurring. That's probably what they're looking at there. From the National Weather Service in northern Halifax, or northern Charlotte County and western Prince Edward County. Again, you move it back a little bit farther west and things start to diminish, but you can't really let your guard down too much because there are more storms that are upstream. Don't want to leave anything out here. And I always lose viewers when I do this, but if you will bear with me, I'm going to show you what our wind shear's doing. That's important. This tells me where the air is spinning, where we have a heavy rainfall threat. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. You can go to spc.gov and get this information right along with me here if you're in a safe enough place to do so. But we'll go to top right and we'll pop that up here. This isn't quite, I meant top left, but this will work. So over the past hour, you don't see anything concentrated, but notice the yellows here. Notice the path. I might be able to put this in motion, but it's going to have to load here. You can see where the yellow showed the rotation over the past hour. And so this is a 2-hour loop. So we're really going back about 3 hours to when this all started. You can see the wind shear. I've got wind arrows there coming out of the surface out of the southeast. And then you've got winds at about 10,000 feet coming out of the south. So there's just enough spin. And you can see how that spin gets more elongated. That means it's more of a straight line wind threat. You also notice that you saw a little bit of blue and under shading here. You saw a little bit of blue and yellow. That was where we had an enhanced storm supercell parameter. And that's gone away now thanks to the more stable air for the moment that's moved back in. But you can still see plenty of the crossing of the wind here. See that right there? And these are actual METARs that we're getting from the airports that are coming in out of the southeast. So there's still some wind shear to be had from Farmville. And I would still watch this area from Henderson, North Carolina, to Danville, to South Boston, to Chase City, and Keysville as well. I'd also watch areas toward Lexington and again toward the Livingston, Charlottesville area, Dillwyn, Columbia, and even in the Richmond as this front tries to bow itself back to the north because of this. Now I'm looking now. What I wanted to show you was the top right monitor. And I did do this at least somewhat organized better than I did before. Top left, Jamey. All right. Let me check Twitter real quick, see if we've got any more. I'm going to refresh this, make sure we don't have any. That's a tree contact. There we go. Twitter, we're going to refresh. Do we have any more statements out or any other reports? Still got that one latest special weather statement as of 8 minutes ago for Campbell County. So we'll hide that for right now. I want to show you the Storm Prediction Center's mesoanalysis page. What in the world is Jamey talking about? Well, this is how I determine whether or not we have a tornado threat. This is how the SPC determines the same thing. Storm Prediction Center. You can see the moisture's increased. You've got that surface low kind of combining in here across Kentucky. You've got winds out of the south and just a lot of moisture being pumped out of the Carolinas right now. But the low is way back at the surface here. We've got a couple of them. One near Johnson City, Tennessee, right there, and another one there in Kentucky. And so what that does is it shows me that there's convergence going on at the surface. Now, aloft is a different story. Aloft, we have just a little bit of wind. If you go to about 5,000 feet, we don't have much of a low here, but we've got it back across Kentucky. We've got winds out, again, as I mentioned, not just out of the south. Now they're out of the south-southeast. They're moving these storms not just out of the south, but they're moving them from south to almost the northwest. And that's why the models are printing out such heavy rainfall over the next couple of days. This is at about 5,000 feet. And the movement there does increase a little bit tonight to about 20 to 35 miles per hour. But that also increases the upslope potential there. So your 850 low, that's the 5,000 foot level, Let's go to 10,000 feet. You can see all the moisture. This is a critical level when we determine heavier rainfall. You can see that low is stacked as well. And as we go into time over the next 6 hours from the wrap, we also see that that's going to continue that trend. So we're going to stay in this, again, rainfall-wise throughout the night tonight. When we look at actual wind shear, we look at about 40 knots to get tornadoes or more around here, bulk wind shear. We're at about 25 to 30 knots. So we've got just enough, again, to give us these severe thunderstorm warnings. And it's been like that all day. As we go through the night tonight, once the effective instability is gone, we'll still have wind shear, but it won't be as effective because we'll lose the heating from the sun. But our CAPE values will still stay up there around 250 to 1,000. And even aloft, you can maintain these what's called most unstable CAPE values. They're still at around 2,000. What that means is it can be cool at the surface, but it can also be warmer aloft, and you can still get some damaging storms that at least make a lot of racket from aloft. I'm looking at anvil level. This is a little bit hard to see. Storm relative wind at the anvil level is going to show me whether I'm in I should be in yeah, no doubt, it's a high precipitation supercell environment if we see that. There's something called Shreve, and it's not showing me much of anything, so that's good. Just a little bit of stretching and tilting with our tornadic potential here. You see there through the NRV and also down through Atlanta. And I'm kind of in the way here. But just trust me, it's down across Atlanta, right near where my picture is. But these values are normally up around 2, 3 to 5. So these aren't tremendously high values of shear. How much water do we have in the air? About 1.5 to 2 inches of water. The atmosphere is like a sponge, so if you were to take a column of air above your head and just squeeze it out, you would get almost 1.5 to 2 inches of water out of that. And that's going to continue to be the case here over the next few days. Again, there's no signs of this letting up anytime soon. Lifted index, the more negative values, the more instability there is in the atmosphere, and you can see why the storms have moved on towards central Virginia now. We still do have the severe thunderstorm warning in Pittsylvania County, but you can see how the western parts of the area aren't, they're not seeing as much. In Roanoke right now in the NRV, you're seeing some rainfall, but nothing severe. And the reason is our lifted indices are a little more on the closer to zero. Basically, the more negative, it's like golf, the more negative it is, the more severe chance there is. So you can see a pinpoint, kind of a bullseye there around Fredericksburg and Richmond down through about South Boston, -3 to -6. Pretty significant amount of instability there. What's the blue? Well, that's where the rain-cooled air has already happened. So that's going to be offsetting some of that potential for lift. But again, the moisture will counteract that over the next several days, so that'll be something to watch as well. Jet stream, a lot of people ignore this. Look at all that purple. You don't have to have a strong jet stream. You have to have a difference in wind and a difference in the curvature of that jet stream to give you lift from above. What happens is you're looking at two things. You're looking at the mountains and the low-level winds converging the winds, but in tandem with that, if you go up to about 20 or 30,000 feet, you're looking at the winds diverging. And diverging winds aloft forces a void in the atmosphere. And so below that divergence, your air is going to rise just because it needs to fill that vacancy. It's like taking a balloon and releasing the air. The same thing's happening there at the jet stream level. So where you see the divergence is right there in the blue. And you can also see, or the purple rather, some fairly elevated levels there. And you can even see our surface trough here. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can kind of see. But our surface trough is even at the jet stream level, farther to the west. And so it's not like this is just scooting on through. This is actually backing up. And so as long as this is back here, like right through here, you're going to continue to see ripples of moisture move along that. There's your winds at the surface. I'm looking at this with you. You can see our theta E, how much moisture and energy has gone down in the blue where the storms have happened. That's gone up in the green. Again, that's very temporary. Mid-level lapse rates are very stable. Low-level lapse rates have stabilized there over Franklin County where we had the heaviest rainfall. But again, if you go just a few feet off the surface where it's still warm and sunny, or at least warm and you've got temperatures near 80, you're still in danger of seeing these storms over the next probably 4 to 6 hours or so. Large hail, not really a big issue. At least I don't see anything right now. I'm looking at also, do we have any downburst potential? Because that is something to worry about. Tornado-wise, around here especially, you need a low-level base of the cloud. You don't want the cloud too far off the top of the ground, or if you don't want a tornado, you do, because it doesn't have to reach that far to get to the ground. But we're looking at lifted condensation levels. In other words, when we take a parcel of air and we lift it up in meters, if it's at around 1,500 or less, and you can see there it's at around 500 to 750 over our area. It would not take a lot. I mentioned the moisture will offset the instability at times. This is similar to a tropical environment, but we just don't quite have the amount of wind shear that we would really need to get something going here. We've only got about 15 knots of shear for this lowest level there. If we look at the whole effective, again, you're only looking at about 35 knots of shear, but this could increase over the next couple of days. Downdraft Cape has also lessened, but this is the straight line wind potential. So when you take a parcel of air, you make it colder, and it's that much colder than the environment, that's the potential for the air to slam down to the ground and produce straight line wind damage. So look out around Raleigh, where I see special weather statements occurring now, and also look out from Richmond into the Tidewater and even Northern Virginia here, according to this. I'm going to guess that's where if we do have any kind of microburst activity, composite-wise, it's not showing up enough because we don't have enough instability. Well, that's good. And I know I'm boring your socks off because my data shows that. I can see you dropping off like flies. Star News 19, share it. Responding Fire 37. I've still got some folks on the my main page at 37. I've still got about 10 of you right there on my main page, my personal page, and I appreciate that. So again, this is the upper level low, and it's counterclockwise. So let's go to some other maps here to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. I can't remember if I must have got rid of that. So I'm going to go to my switcher here. All right, this is my ATEM switcher. And if you'll give me just a second, what I'm going to do is pop up my weather station for you here. Assuming I can do that. Give me 1 second. I'm still here. There it is. Okay. So it's 68.4 at my home office. That's in Franklin County. Dew point's at 67. So unless we get some wind, we're probably going to see some fog tonight. It's last detected lightning 7 minutes ago. It's pretty impressive. This tempest is depicting the lightning just from my little meter here in the front yard. That goes off percussion, actually, in terms of rainfall. Rain today, 0.65. I've noticed that's pretty low compared to the real rain gauge. Let me see how much I got in the tank here. I Got about the same amount outside, actually. I think it depends on the nature of the rain. By the way, we just got talking about Raleigh, Durham. So for you folks out in Durham and Wake Forest, you are now under a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. Let me pop this up for you. All right, so this is off a radar scope. But there you see that activity right there off of Durham. That cell is very strong. This is, again, upstream from you folks in South Boston. And you've got a heck of a cell. It's very isolated, but it's very intense. Just around South Boston, Halifax, and Scottsburg. See if I can get some roads on here for you, too. I mentioned you would be next. 15 there and 58. So if you are in South Side and near Gretna too, and near Lynchburg, you still need to be watching this. You still need to be sharing this out. We've got a new special weather statement out for Lynchburg, showing that Madison Heights rain getting very, very heavy, now moving into Amherst County. It won't take it long because the jet stream is supporting this aloft. You've also got heavier rainfall coming down in Torrance here, entering Nelson and Albemarle counties as well. That's a location that's always had a problem with flooding. You can see a bookend vortex coming through Gretna. That's where we had these straight line winds kind of bow out that one segment, and I think I can illustrate that on this program. It almost looks like a hook echo, except it's a wider view. Yeah, right there. You see that? Let me put that in motion too. So if you follow that, the good news is it wasn't moving due east. The good news is that, unfortunately for the flooding, these storms are propagating up to the northwest. But within this, we are seeing that little curly Q right there, just around the Gretna area near Highway 40, where this is starting to take on more of a broad spin that could be tightening. It could be tightening. It's hard to tell. So you may want to keep it here. What I may do is take a break, because I do lose people the more I'm on here. And as I say that, we get new special weather statements in all the time. There's your new special weather statement out for South Boston and Halifax. This storm is moving to the Crystal Hill, Halifax area. 30-mile-per-hour winds, moving north at 20 miles per hour. Locally heavy rainfall and hydroplaning near 360 there, and going into Halifax there as well. I was in that area coming back from the Outer Banks. Beautiful, beautiful little towns through here. Halifax and Boynton and Emporia. And I'm not just saying that. Now we've got the, again, the severe thunderstorms that continue moving in through Durham. It won't be long until they move up 86 here. And you folks familiar with Roxborough? That area just to the south of, well, from Yanceyville to Roxborough, south of Milton, there, and I believe that is 86, one of these roads, and 158. You're next in line, 501 down through Durham. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for you for the next 36 minutes until 4 o'clock. That's moving north at 25 miles per hour. So the problem today was all this moisture moved in at a very critical time of the day when we were really at our peak. And I mentioned on the radio station, B99.9, you can get them on their app. You can also get them online, but pretty much we cover Southside, and I'm so happy to be doing this with them. I mentioned that we would see a high today near 80 around lunchtime, and then afterwards we would see temperatures tumble as the rain set in. What I don't like on the radar trends, unfortunately, is how fast these storms are filling back in from Yadkinville to Harmony. So if you're watching just 10 minutes ago, I was almost calling it all clear for right now. We've got new development, and I think I see a meso low. Can you see a swirl here? That's not a tornado. That's a multi-county low that's not quite as big as a major low pressure system, but it's a ripple of energy that is going to concentrate wind shear, and it's going to concentrate these heavier rain bands that could train over time in the Galax and Fancy Gap, and especially along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Not to be outdone, we still do have some reports of flooding around Greensboro. We've got reports coming in around Eden, too, of some wind damage. But look there from Moxville, north of Concord, Salisbury and Spencer, Harmony, North Carolina, Yadkinville. We've got storms redeveloping and a lot of heavier rainfall occurring here. And the only reason it looks weaker as you head down south is because it's out of radar range. If I were to go to the Wilmington radar, you can see it's more of a line, but these are still going to get pulled into this broad upper level low that's going to create havoc over the area. I think that's just an MPing report, meaning it's not an official report from the Weather Service, but at 3:14, a spotter, MPing, something you can use, by the way, mping.com, or you can go on Radarscope and submit a report. We trust you to not leave any bogus reports, though. River Creek overflowing on the cropland and yards, so very minimal impacts there, but the ground's getting saturated. Also, I want to mention that these rainfall rates are exponential. So when you see green and then you go to yellow, you think, okay, that's twice as bad, and then red's 4 times as bad. It's not like that. The radar equation is exponential. So once you get into the reds and the purples, and I'm even seeing some purple there around Goldston there in the North Carolina and Pittsboro near Burlington, those are incredible rainfall amounts that are coming down. If I show you this, kind of gives you an idea. This is 1 hour rainfall. And that is not what I wanted it to look like. Let's see. 1 hour. I think it may be on my other. Look at the specific differential phase anyway. You can see these higher values there, kind of separating the boys from the men here in terms of, if you want to call it that, rainfall wise. That's from the radar to our south. Let's look at the Blacksburg radar, and again you see these higher cranberry colors turning into green and turning into purple near the Raleigh radar site as well. That's just a lot of rain, and some of this gray here is melted hail. That's aloft. If you go to the Raleigh radar, you'll get a better idea of where that really heavy rain is. Let's see. I haven't even had time yet to post anything. I want to post it. I'm going to have to put a couple things up here for you. So let's talk about flash flood warnings. And as I'm doing that, we're going to have some flash flood warnings. So let me go over these with you. After this, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to put some stuff out on my pay site. And then we're going to do more updates as needed throughout the night. And I can assure you, I will be back on tonight with more updates. So let me get rid of some of this stuff here. Flash flood warning means that you need to move to higher ground immediately. And right now, the only flash flood warning we have is in Greensboro, although I have a feeling we're going to see that expanded across a good part of North Carolina, and maybe even in the eastern parts of our area. Never drive across a flooded roadway, even if you think you know it, you've seen it flood a million times. You don't really know for sure if there's a road underneath there, do you? Just 6 inches to a foot of water can knock you down and sweep your vehicles away. Think about it. Even in a SUV, you've got these 4 huge tires, and they're flotation devices, they're inner tubes. You'll float away. And unfortunately, I've had to rescue people. I was down in Bassett Forks at an area where it normally floods there near Nelson in the S curves in Henry County. And I ran up on a guy. I was the first person there, and his car was submerging as I got there. And I couldn't get out to him, but he was luckily able to get out of that car before the whole thing went floating down with that little creek there. Very, very dangerous situation, and this will get more dangerous with each passing day. So never cross a flooded roadway. Now, what's a severe thunderstorm warning? Let's look at that. Severe thunderstorm warning is just shy of a tornado warning and just a little bit more serious than a special weather statement. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings, by the way, still in effect for Durham. We've got another one in effect for areas of eastern Pennsylvania County, and we may have one soon for Halifax County. But it means to get into a sturdy shelter away from windows. That's not just reserved for tornadoes. These severe thunderstorm warnings are serious, and in fact, the National Weather Service out of Raleigh just put out an update to their one covering Durham that now goes into 501 in Timberlake and near the airport there near Cates, just south of Gordonton and Hurdle Mills, Berryland. I'm not very good at this area. I'm looking for 86. Okay, there's 86. So it's just to, if you follow 86 on down into right before you get to Durham there, Springview Meadows is in this. Chapel Hill's not in the warning, but I'll show you that in just a second. That's down across Durham, and it's moving to the north-northwest. It's really moving north, but more to the north-northwest. And these cells, again, across central Virginia look strong. Sheds, storage facilities are not safe. I was on the damage survey around eastern Franklin County, and we don't know if it was a tornado or not. Couldn't really get the agreement from the National Weather Service to do a survey out there, but I've got video from my drone that shows trees uprooted in both directions and roofing from farmland and sheds thrown hundreds of yards in both directions. Very isolated, they can be very microscopic, and they can be very dangerous. You want to also avoid large auditoriums and gyms. You want to get into like a tight, confined space whenever you're issuing a or under a severe thunderstorm warning. Now, the National Weather Service has new technology where they will tell you if they think the wind is destructive, like we had with the derecho. That's where that came about, actually. But I will say they are not perfect. No one is perfect. And so I think you need to treat, in this situation, we don't have a ton of wind, but we're getting a lot of wind damage reports. I think we need to be advised of that into tonight. Being in the vehicle is safer than outside in the elements and a severe thunderstorm warning. Now, you don't want to try to outrun a severe thunderstorm, but if you have no other options, especially in a tornado warning, what you don't want to do is try to outrun that. But if you can hunker down, the lightning will actually travel around the cage of the vehicle as long as you keep your feet and everything inside of the vehicle and don't become the ground. Your tires may become the ground, but you won't. They may blow, but the cage of the car is going to protect you, believe it or not. And the lightning is probably going to just hit the top of the, your antenna on top of your car. It's going to make a loud boom if you're out in it, but it's not usually going to come through the window at you. You don't want to be the tallest object around, regardless of a thunderstorm. So that's one of the keys there. So as I mentioned, no tornado warnings yet, but we came close to getting one today. We may end up seeing some tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Never trying to outrun a tornado. And I will let you know, because the special weather statements sometimes mention or have rotation with them. I'll let you know if it's looking like there could be a tornado warning issued. In fact, I don't even use the National Weather Service chat as much as I just look at it for myself. And I look at all these different parameters that have bored some of you to death, but when I look at that, I'm able to tell you whether or not I really think this is just a storm or something that's increasing in rotation. So you don't have to wait for the warning to come out. I kind of give you about a 5 to 10 minutes heads up when I can. Avoid overpasses because in a tornado, your winds are blowing from side to side. The overpasses actually put you a little bit farther above the ground and can concentrate the wind and make it higher. Do not bother opening your windows. Makes no difference. No time. What you want to do is just save time. You don't have any time to do that. And with the case like what we're going to be in this week, any tornado we get could be rain wrapped. Probably will be. You're not going to go outside and be able to see this thing coming and say, hey, Martha, come here, look at this thing. It's going to look like just rain. And if you go and look at YouTube videos, you'll see that within a split second, 5 seconds or less, you end up getting the tornado. There's almost no, they say it came without warning. You are under a tornado warning, but you'll see like 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. And then out of nowhere, you'll get 100 mile per hour winds. And that's because tornadoes, by definition, are just very isolated phenomenon, but they are very dangerous because of that. So if a tornado warning is issued for your area, and this is good advice for severe thunderstorm warnings too that have the tag where the tornado is possible, you always want to get into a basement or the lowest level away from windows, interior room. Again, that works for any ordinary storm actually, but especially a tornado warning. Again, none in effect as of this live broadcast, but stay tuned. I think later on we may have to worry about this week, tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday night, Thursday. Believe it or not, maybe into the weekend. If a tornado warning ever gets issued this week, I'll go over this with you more. Get under a table or a workbench, pool table, cover your head with your arms, bodies, and pillows and blankets, mattresses, helmets. If you're in a mobile home, we have a lot of mobile homes that are great values for folks, but you want to get out of those. They will topple in winds that you see in just ordinary thunderstorms. Straight line winds will topple mobile homes. An outside ditch is actually safer. And believe it or not, some National Weather Services offices say that you'd be better off in a car with a seatbelt on, hunkered down below the steering wheel, than you are trying to ride this out in a mobile home, believe it or not. So, but there's some debate. Sometimes an F5 is just going to throw a car. I don't see anything like that happening, but I do see a surgence coming back on the radar picture here, and that is somewhat concerning to me. So let's see what we have on my Twitter feed right now. We've got the strong thunderstorm. Let's see. I'm going to refresh that. And again, go to jameysingleton.com, get the very latest there. I'm going to pull up this radar picture here to show you that we do have flood advisories in effect. This is going to be right 4K monitor. I'll remove the Twitter here. Look at all these storm reports. They're continuing to come in. But if you look at the little green here, this is where we have flood advisories. That's just shy of a flash flood warning. That means we may not see like sudden flash flooding, but that creeks and streams are having a hard time keeping water in their banks from Grayson County already through Floyd County, much of Carroll County. Henry County, you're not under a flood advisory anymore. But we could see more issued again later on. This is the storm I was watching coming out of Durham, moving into the Rogemont area, Timberlake area, Roxborough, Yanceyville will be 86 through here. And we still actually do have this cell around Bolins too that bears watching. That one lightning jump there around Clover and Crystal Hill, Charlotte Courthouse, Appomattox, Farmville looks like a bad storm here. This is almost a hard area, impossible to forecast for perfectly because you're in between the Sterling radar. If I go to the Sterling radar, you're kind of going to see a similar image. A little bit farther away, but you can pick out some hail and very heavy rainfall near Appomattox and Amherst. And you can barely pick up that Halifax stuff, but then if you move across Raleigh, you can pick up the Halifax stuff. In some cases, you can pick that up better than the Blacksburg radar picks that up. So let me just look real quick before I sign off for good, because this happens all the time. I'm going to place a marker here. We're going to measure from the radar. And I'm not worried about spin as much as I'm worried about looks like these things are training. So this is base velocity. Now remember, we're looking comparison. We're not looking to Floyd County. We're looking at the Raleigh radar for Southside for you folks in Halifax County. So you've got some green, you've got some broad rotation here, okay? You've also got a little notch there around Clover. If you look at the storm relative velocity, that takes out storm motion. It kind of pops up a little better for you. The reds and the greens are getting a little closer together, but still nothing organized such that any warning has been issued. But we've got a new tree down near Sago Road near the intersection of Callens Road. That was at 105. And again, more activity will continue throughout the evening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 storm reports so far. And more to come. More flooding, more than likely, is going to be happening here. And so what I will do is I'll break back in here in a little while here and let you know about what's going on in North Carolina, especially on YouTube and TikTok. I'll cover more national stuff there. Stay safe. I'll have stuff out on the pay site too. Got a lot to do, don't I? Wanted to give you an idea of some of the models, the latest models, and we'll look at this activity near Volans as I sign off now.